Lee McQueen, thank you very much for coming on the Counter Offer. I know you get asked on lots of podcasts, so yeah, I really appreciate it.
Happy to be here, Suze.
I've done a quick intro. In your own words, who is Lee McQueen?
What, Lee McQueen? Wow, that's mad. So happy to be here. So all of the listeners, thank you so much for having me, Susan. Really appreciate it. Lee McQueen is a father. He's a business guy, an entrepreneur, a bit of a joker, a bit of a jester, somebody who likes to have a bit of fun. Messed around on the telly a few years ago as well. Yeah, I mean, from a serious point of view, my roots are in recruitment, and I've been in recruitment really for 25 years, for my entire career. But I suppose I'm a bit of everything. I suppose at heart, I'm a sales guy. At heart, that is who I am.
What do you love about recruitment, out of interest?
When we were stuck and wedded to the kind of the corporate recruitment world, I never really ever felt it was a corporate world on the basis that it's very entrepreneurial. And I really like that. Obviously, now I've gone on to build 3 7-figure businesses since I left the recruitment industry of working for someone else. And it's absolutely Sue's recruitment that gave me that skill set, if you like it, that confidence, that courage to be able to go out. I mean, I'm a firm believer in that anybody can do what they want to do. They can go and achieve what they want to achieve. I genuinely believe that. But most people don't, because of confidence, because of courage, because of lacking, not the talent almost, it's just lacking the conviction of knowing how to do certain things. Unfortunately, I'm an old sod now. So unfortunately, that does come with age and it does come with experience. Actually, when you're in your 20s or even in your early 30s and you're still building out your career, sometimes it's more difficult to see that path. Whereas now, when I'm the other side of 40, the experience that you've got, you can start to see what that path maybe should have been 20 years ago.
Ooh, very deep, straight into the depth of psychology early on. I love it. And one thing, actually,
part of my business, Suze, to be fair, that's what we do.
Yeah, no, I love it. So the reason that I ended up reaching out to you, for obvious reasons, but mainly because your recruitment trainer referred to you when I was discussing my experience on The Apprentice on LinkedIn. And the reason I didn't get through, I got through to the final 60. And the reason I didn't get through was because I was not authentic to myself. I was trying to be what I thought they wanted me to be. So, you do the screen tests just before the very final bit where they ask you questions. I don't know if they did this in your day. Not that you can, but it was.
When did you try it? Which show? I won series 4. So for the listeners that are listening, I won series 4. So
yeah.
I've just got a cool country. Yeah, I won series 4. So
you were 2008. So I think I was about 6 years after you. And it got to that final bit in Birmingham where they've got studio and they're like, so tell me what's interesting about you, what's different about you. And I was like, well, I sing any situation, I will come up with a song. And they were like, come on then, what song for us now? And I just burst in singing I'm a Survivor, Destiny's Child. But that's a great idea, but I did this really awkward dance that made me look really uncool. And I looked so uncomfortable. And I'm sure that was the reason maybe it was something else, maybe loads of things, but I'm sure that was the main reason I didn't get on. But what our good friend Alan said about you, he said that you were always authentic, like you were always true to yourself throughout that whole process.
Yeah. That's actually really interesting to hear. Shout out, big up to Alan Clark. He's a top guy. I think that's really interesting to hear because I absolutely was in my own skin, in my own in my own way. I had a plan and my plan was just to be myself. I trusted that recruitment, the industry showed me how to be. I knew I could build relationships. I knew I was quite, not being weird, but quite a likable bloke, bit of a cheeky chappy. I knew all of that. That was just my normal personality and that totally came across. And I knew I was good at building relationships. And to be honest, I knew I was good at sales because I built an amazing career. I mean, already up until that point, and I've sold heavily. I've sold a lot. I mean, I've generated over 300 million pounds worth of revenue from my clients since I started my career all them years ago. So I knew I could sell and I just trusted myself. I thought to myself, do you know what? I'm just going to be me. If I get fired the first week, it'd be bloody embarrassing. But no, it didn't. And, I went all the way and got to the final and ended up winning. Beating 20,000 candidates, winning the show. From my background, it's a little bit of self-gratification, I suppose, because my dad's a milkman, my mum, doctor's receptionist, growing up, I grew up in not in a council estate, but in an ex-council house. I was the kid that went to school with high-tech GTI trainers on, right? When everyone else had Reebok and Nike, I was the kid with the GTIs, man. And they might be back in fashion now, but it didn't do them any favours back then in the day. So when I rock up at the Apprentice house and there's 15 other candidates and there's lawyers and there's barristers and there's people that have been born with a silver spoon in their mouth, I'm thinking, blimey, should I be here? Should I
Really?
even be at this table? Like, should I even be around this table having dinner with these people?
Yeah, that must have
But
been so
yeah,
intense. That must have been so intense. Like people don't talk about that side of The Apprentice. You just see in the boardroom and all of that, but actually being stuck in a house with people who are probably really different age and different from you, like, was that hard?
yeah, I think it was hard. Like I said, I think one of my core traits is getting on with people, building relationships, figuring people out, and get people's numbers quite quickly. Not literally, but you know what I mean. And so I'm pretty certain our production team put myself and Rafe together in the same room, like in the house. It's because he was Mr. Posh guy and I was Mr. Barrel Boy guy, and we got like a house on fire. So I think the TV aspect of the show does put you under massive strain because there is people definitely now as well. And back then for me as well, all them years ago, people went in The Apprentice to become famous, right? People
Yeah.
went in there for the wrong reasons, right? I didn't. I went in there to get a job with Lord Sugar because at the time and even now, the most respected or one of the most respected British entrepreneurs the UK's ever produced. So I'm like, okay, if he's worth like £1 billion, I can learn from this fella and I want to go and work for him and learn from him. That was genuine. So that I'll probably say out of 16 candidates that was in my season, I'll probably say only 5 of them actually wanted to win it to go and get the job. The rest of them just wanted to get more followers on Facebook. Don't even forget, Instagram didn't exist back then.
No.
TikTok, not even heard of them and all that sort of stuff. It was only Twitter that was just starting to creep in at that point. So social media was lower, and now the production of how you see the show, the glamour. I mean, we wore all of our own clothes and now it's wardrobe. Now there's
Really?
wardrobe in there. Of course, you
That's
can see.
crazy.
You can see, right? Last season, they're wearing the same stuff. So it's obviously wardrobes. It was never that before. I was wearing my own authentic clothes that I bought from, at the time, from probably Next or wherever it was, because I couldn't afford £1,000 suits and bespoke suits like I now dress myself in.
That's so
Crazy.
that's so true. I mean, like, I can't even imagine like working for Lord Sugar. Is he as brutal as he is on the TV show? Like, how much has he changed your life, would you say?
He can be brutal, but like any successful person, discipline, I think, is the key to success. Executing, taking action, doing the right things. He's very, very sharp, very, very clever. He's one of these guys, one of these people. I'm sure you've had these in and around your life, and the listeners will have as well, where you've got somebody that's about 3 steps ahead of you already. So you start explaining something, like, yeah, I got that. And you're like, whoa, hang on, I need to explain this. No, you don't. I got it. He's that guy. But one of the key things I learned a lot, but one of the key things I learned from him and his son Simon, because his son Simon was the CEO of Amscreen, which is the company that we started. So when I won The Apprentice, I got the best of both worlds because my show was work for him because it hadn't changed by that point. But I actually started a company. So I was the first one to start a new company with him under that regime. So I was the development director of a company called Amscreen. It went 7 figures. I mean, we signed a £5 million contract within 7 months of starting the company. It was insane. And the amount of knowledge that I got at company acquisition, mergers, understanding how different businesses work, business meetings. I mean, I think I had, the recruiters listening to this will appreciate this. I think I probably had something like 70 plus 75 meetings in the first 10 weeks, just generating meetings myself, just banging on the phone, generating meetings, getting people to come and talk to us and understand what we're about. It's a startup, right? That was my first kind of foray. So, and he always used to say, Sue, just keep things simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't overthink things. You talk about psychology. So many people now, we listen to podcasts like this. We listen to the bigger entities on YouTube and everyone telling us, you got to do this, you must do this. The reality is business hasn't really changed for years and years and years. Keep things simple. Have an idea. What's the problem that you're looking to solve? If you solve somebody's problem, you've got a chance. If you don't solve anybody's problem, you've got no chance. And actually be good at what you do. And if you can be really good at what you do and you solve a pain point or a problem for a client, you've got half a chance. And then it's work hard, take action.
Yeah, and I think that's the only thing that you can control, isn't it? What, like you just said, your actions, and I always think your reactions and your mindset. And thank God we've got like podcasts now to kind of help us with that. And we've got like so many things at our disposal because I do think it is psychology. I do think a lot of it's that. And also the way that you framed the experience on The Apprentice. I mean, obviously you won, which helps, but there are a lot of people who say to me, especially, they say, you're so lucky you didn't get on it because like it would have been awful and blah, blah, blah. They make things look how they are not. And do you know what? I think there's an element of it. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with looking stupid. I would have been fine with going on the show and looking like a twat, but I ultimately would have been myself, hopefully. But you never really know. But
Just on that, I mean, just to interact with you on that point, I mean, you said that you burst out into sing. So you got to the point where there was 5 people in front of you on a table in a hotel room. You walk in the hotel room, there's a chair essentially in front of the 5 people. It's very, very intimidating. You sit down, they go, right, tell me something different about yourself or whatever. Like this, and again, you were 6 years later than me, but you're nodding. So it's a very similar scenario. I did the same thing. That's when the pterodactyl was born for me. So if you remember, I did the reverse pterodactyl. They turned around to one of the, which I ended up later on finding out was one of the producers, but you don't know who's interviewing you. So again, for the listeners, they're producers, right? They're people that are working on the program, but you don't know that when you're going through this process. Maybe I was naive. I was just like, yeah, I just rock up, do what it is. So one guy, his name was Ben, actually. One guy said to me, he sat down and he said, surprise me. That's what he said. I sat down in this chair, he went, surprise me. And I thought, what can I do that 20,000 other people are not going to do? What can I do? And I just thought, I used to do this reverse pterodactyl thing, bit of fun, bit of having a laugh. So I did it. And he was just like, whoa. And I went, I bet you weren't expecting that. And I thought, I'm done. He's going to eject me because I'm like, whatever. And he didn't. He put me through to the next round. And that next round was the panel of 5 people. So I walked into this thinking, right, here we go. Serious interview. They're going to do. The first thing, and Miss Michelle, actually, she was the exec producer at the time, which I obviously didn't know, but I found out afterwards. Michelle, I sat down, Michelle said, right, what's this reverse pterodactyl thing then? And I was like, are you serious? They want me to do it like in front of these people now. And I just thought, and I said to you earlier in the show, and it's just true to my word, I said to myself, I was just going to be me. They want me to do it, I'm going to do it. So I just did it. And that, I am convinced that that's what got me on the show. So that's how mad the show is. Now, in terms of contrived and they get you to do certain things, you have to think about it as a test. They put things in front of you that is going to test you, because The Apprentice is a giant assessment center. It's the reason why I built my recruitment business, the way I have built my recruitment business, because what better way to hire somebody than to watch, to look, to learn, to observe, to actually see, have these individuals got the right... So, I mean, if you think about The Apprentice, I was saying before, it's like a giant assessment center. So they're watching, they're looking, they're observing, they're seeing what better way of hiring them to work in a stressful environment or sell in a different environment or when they're under pressure. And that's what The Apprentice does. What most people don't realize is that there's a huge amount of pressure after that, because the boardroom that you see is 10 minutes. The boardroom that we film is 3 hours. So it's a huge difference of like what actually happens, and all of that builds up. And that's why I built my recruitment business the way I have. My technology business now is a digital assessment tool that enables any business to digitalize the assessment process, which is basically watching, looking, observing digitally. I mean, it's exactly, so The Apprentice has totally formulated my 2 other businesses that I've set up, but my entire career, because it's got that flavor of, I always wanted, Suze, to do something on my own, and I never really had the courage to do it. And after my time at Capita, when I went on The Apprentice, it gave me the courage, the confidence to say, do you know what? You can go and set something up. And that's what I did.
I love that. And I want to talk to you actually a little bit more about like your recruitment company, Raw Talent, because I'm fascinated by salespeople, recruiting salespeople and all those things. But before I do that, very keen to know, what did it feel like? How can you describe what it felt like when he said, you're the winner, when he basically pointed to you and said, you're going to work for me?
You're hired, is the words he said.
Yes, you're hired.
Yeah. It was quite surreal because our season was the only season where they had 4 people in the final. So they actually had 4 finalists. And what we had to do is we had to pair up with somebody that was essentially going to end up taking your job or taking the prize or whatever. And I was paired up with Claire and Alex was paired up with Helen. And we went toe to toe in the presentation of the final task. We had to build a men's aftershave or men's perfume. Yeah, Claire and I won. So I knew that by that point I was right in the mix. And then we had to go head to head. Claire and I had to go head to head in a kind of a boardroom off. And the funny thing was, I was never in the final 3 of the boardroom. So he never had an opportunity to fire me until the interviews. So some of the people that know my season, some of them won't even know listening to this, but when you get to the interviews, they asked me some questions about degree and my CV and all that sort of stuff. And it came across on the TV that I lied on my CV. And like I said to you right at the beginning of the show, I'll always be authentic. When I applied for the show, I never expected to get on it. I just shoved them a CV that I threw together and I put it in there and I put an application form in it. And I had no idea that what was written on that CV. And I never checked it, never looked at it. And then you just forget about it. And then you get carried away and then you get an interview, another interview, another interview. 7 interviews, I get on to the show. And then I'm in the show. I have no idea like what my application was. Anyway, so I get to the interview stage and Borden pulls my CV out, which I obviously can't see. And he said, oh, so you went to university? And I said, yeah. I said, I went to university, but he went, oh, doesn't say that on your CV. It says that you've got a degree. And I was like, well, if that's what it says. I looked an absolute muppet. It actually said on my CV, because I checked afterwards, so I dropped out after 4 months, but he didn't say that. And therefore I didn't know what was written on it, so I couldn't argue. It wasn't a good look. So that I was convinced at that point that I was going to get fired. So I went into the boardroom for the first time. So 10 weeks of process, never been in the final three of the boardroom. He couldn't fire me. The first time he has an opportunity to fire me, I've made a massive mistake, i.e. basically told the whole world that I was at university and I wasn't. So it was a nightmare. But the reason why that long-winded narrative is important to the context of my story is instead of retracting, being embarrassed, and I embraced that. I said, all right, so I've made a mistake. And do you know what? I'm going to build a recruitment business that doesn't hire based on a CV. I am fed up to the back teeth of hiring salespeople based on 2 pieces of papers. I'm an outgoing, enthusiastic individual that can do this and can do that. I mean, blah, 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 blah. We've heard it all before. So I just ripped up the CV and I started my first business, my recruitment company, where I was going to clients. I was saying, we don't hire on a CV. So if you want to see their CVs, we're not the company that you want to work with. And we hired people not on CV. We hired people based on behaviors and competencies. And we used the assessment process that I described before to actually showcase to our clients why you should be hiring these people. And so it worked. So I turned a bad situation into a really good situation. And I built 2 7-figure businesses off the back of that decision. So it was obviously a good one.
I love that. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, I, on paper, probably look like a good candidate, right? If you were recruiting me for raw talent, because I was fortunate enough to go to Cambridge University. So it looks like I'm super bright, but actually I got in through the back door. I got like B's and C's in my A levels. I just talked my way into it. And you know what? It's the influencing that got me in there. But there are a lot of people who mistakenly think that that means I'm intelligent, and I'm not. And I'm a massive advocate for people who don't go to university, because I could have got to where I am now without going to university. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what are your thoughts on the whole kind of qualification thing, university?
Yeah, I mean, well, fair play to you. I mean, going to Cambridge is absolutely insane. So congratulations
Sounds good,
to you on that. It's absolutely amazing. And you are intelligent, by the way. But yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm anti-education. That's not what I'm saying. I got really bad GCSE grades and I didn't get enough to do A levels. And therefore, if I'm not doing A levels, I'm not going to university. And I grew up in an era, and it still might be the same. There's stigma, certainly for me, whereas you're already failed if you're not good enough to go to uni. And there's very much a stigma attached around university. And then this is obviously before I was a parent as well. So it's very interesting how the dynamic changes. But going to university doesn't guarantee you the life or the career that you may or may not want. Now, I get that you have to go to university and study for certain things if you want to be a doctor, if you want a certain career move. But you don't have to go to university to be an amazing salesperson. You don't, because I didn't, and I'm an amazing salesperson. You don't have to go to university to be an amazing business owner or founder, because I am, and I didn't. So that was the thought process for me. And when you look around a lot of these entrepreneurs, their journeys, who they are, what they do, some of them go uni, some of them don't. I don't think that's the problem. The problem that I wanted to solve was organizations looking for top talent would discarding people that didn't have a degree. And that was my beef. It's if you want to hire 20 people and all of them are graduates because they are the best people out of the talent pool, I've got no problem with that. But make sure that you've got the best people in that talent pool, that they're not just grads. Because I proved, as so many other people before me and after me have, that on The Apprentice, as an example, you don't have to have a silver spoon. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to be successful. What you need is the right behavior, the right attitude, and the right coachability. You need to find people in entry level. You need to find people that are coachable, that actually want to learn, that are not just paying you lip service. Yeah, I'll do it. No. You need to want to be coached. It's true. And actually, the last sort of year, I've got my technology business into a situation where I can now start coaching other businesses and other business owners. And now I'm coaching other business owners, and I see that their pathways, the light bulb moments that are happening because they didn't think the way that they should be thinking as a business owner. They've started a business because they're good at what they do, but they don't know how to operate or run a business. And if they're not coachable, their business won't work. But if they're coachable, their business rockets. And it's very, very rewarding, Suze, to see that, you know?
Definitely. I think if you're not coachable, you've kind of reached your ceiling, haven't you? Whatever you're doing, you need to be open to feedback. I always say feedback's a gift. But you and I have had quite a similar probably experience of trying to get salespeople into roles, because I believe every recruiter needs to be a salesperson. There was that golden era of COVID when everyone thought they could just be delivery. I left my old company, start my own business, and they were like, Suze, the sales thing isn't a problem anymore because we don't need to get people to sell because it's all about the candidates. And I was thinking, you still need to sell to the candidates. So I'm curious to know, because I've recruited lots of people who claim to be salespeople. I'm curious to know, how have you manifested a way to unpick the people who think they're salespeople, but then they're sat at a desk and they don't pick up the phone because they're scared, to the people who are actually true real life hustlers? How do you spot them? Because that's the $1 million question, right?
Well, I mean, I love your phrasing there, Suze. I mean, you've probably taken a couple of my phrases that I use all the time out of my mouth there in terms of that spotting them, picking up the phone, hustlers. I love that stuff. I think at the end of the day, that authenticity is right. If you're comfortable in speaking to people, communication and conversations is a sales tool. If you're an introvert, it doesn't mean to say that you're not going to be good at sales, but you've got to be comfortable with being nosy. That's what I would say for as a bit of a life. You've got to be nosy. You've got to want to ask questions, and you've got to want to communicate, and you've got to want to have conversations with people. And I think that is the key thing, is listening, asking questions, listening, asking questions, listening. And I think as a recruiter, and most people who listen to the podcast are from a recruitment background, I'm assuming, right? But as a recruiter, that should be natural to us because we've had that trained and developed and coached into us. Ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. That formulates a real great foundation for a fantastic salesperson. So, for example, when you're hiring somebody for sales and they ask you no questions, red flag, right? Of course, they should be asking questions. And it could be any question. I'm not bothered what the questions are, but they want to be, if they're struggling, they're not sure, that confidence comes with knowledge. Knowledge comes from research. Research is no excuse now. There's ChatGPT that you can literally just voice note right now and go, oh, tell me about the board report of, I don't know, Amscreen, and it will just tell you. So you've got everything. Everybody now has all the tools at their disposal to be able to really understand, does Susanna need or have a problem that I can solve? And if you do, let's do some research on what that problem is, what you've done in the past for it, and actually, what do you want to do in the future? And that comes with questions, doesn't it, Suze? So asking questions, probing and understanding. I call it discovery, and it is the key thing. And I'll tell you something, most business owners that have set up a business from being brilliant in their corporate jobs, they don't do this. They don't think it's their job. They don't think it's their role. Your role as a founder, as a business owner, is the same as probably what your role was when you were doing 100 dial-out cold calls a day back in the day in recruitment. And this is why recruiters have an advantage, right? Salespeople have an advantage because of that. So spotting salespeople, they say, oh yeah, I'm outward. I reach out to people, go there, and have a look on their LinkedIn. When was the last time they posted? When was the last time they interacted with a post? This is the behavior. A 2-page CV says, I reach out, I do this, I do this. But the behavior on social media shows you what they do. The question, do they naturally question? Do they naturally... We do another thing in our assessment centers, right? So Phoenix 51 is my tech business that came out of my recruitment company. And it's a platform. And what we do is we digitize people assessment. One of the assessment tasks that we do is we get people, it's nothing revolutionary, but we get people to do presentations on something that they're passionate about, right? So it could be anything they're passionate about. It could be your singing, right? For example, could be my sales, could be horse riding, whatever it is. But if somebody can't stand up for 3 or 4 minutes and talk about their passion with verve and with vavavoom and with passion and really you can see how I am. This is just natural.
Yeah.
You can't fake that. That comes naturally. So I can get somebody to do a presentation on my organization. Okay, Suze, come and do a presentation on Phoenix 51. What do you know about us and what's our platform? You're going to struggle a bit because you don't know about us. But if I ask you to come and do a presentation on what your real passion is, and you say, my passion is my children, or my passion is Dubai, or my passion is singing, and you can't come and do that, then I'm sitting here with Phoenix 51, I'm scoring, I'm thinking, you're not as strong as what you need to be. Does that make sense? So it's about probing, it's about conversation, it's about getting to know people. Our attention rate is insane. Like for first year SDRs or entry level salespeople, whether or not they're in recruitment, most of the business we do now is in technology or financial services. But I used to be in recruitment all the time. That's why I started the business. Got an 82% retention rate in year one from entry level.
That's amazing. Because I often look at other billers, right, in my industry, and I see a 500K biller, I see a 300K biller. And I ask myself, to me, initially, without thinking about it, I think the 500K biller is the better biller. But then when you really think about what really makes a good recruiter, it's that retention. Are you making placements with the right clients where people will stay? And actually, that 350K biller could actually be the better recruiter. It's not always about the billings, although obviously billings are better, but the better recruiter is the one who has the retention. So I love that. And this Phoenix 51, I've heard people talking about this before. Is it something that you use within Raw Talent?
It kind of overtook Raw Talent, to be brutally honest. I mean, Raw Talent virtually died a death in COVID. So when COVID struck, like most businesses, it really hurt us. And no one was doing in-person assessment centers. It was impossible, wasn't it, to do that? So we had to pivot. And I think it's important for me to be authentic on your show. In order for you to grow, you have to go through failings. You do. This is what makes you grow. If everything was comfortable, you're always in your comfort zone, you're never going to learn. And COVID was a massive learning curve for everyone. So we had to pivot and bring a video element into the assessment. We were actually the first organization in the UK very quickly to use our technology from a virtual perspective. So to do virtual assessment centers. So we quickly pivoted, built video technology into the platform. And that's really, we haven't really gone back to the old model. We've stayed with the new model. And the new model is virtual assessment centers and in-person assessment centers, but completely now using our platform, which is Phoenix 51. So Phoenix 51 kind of almost overtook or took over, if you like, Raw Talent. So I don't look at them as necessarily as two separate businesses now. They were, but now I kind of just look at it as one key thing. The service, what we provide to our clients is technology, recruitment service, and coaching. And they're the three elements that Phoenix 51 delivers.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was going to ask you about COVID actually, and how someone like you coped during that time, because you're clearly a communicator. Would you say that's kind of one of the lowest that you've ever been, or would you say that you use that as a kind of turning point?
I think a bit of both. So our plan, Suze, was always to launch a technology business that had annuity or annual recurring revenue. So the thing is about Raw Talent was it was a perm recruitment company. So every single month, regardless of what you did the month before, you got to go again. You start from zero, you go again. And, that's exhausting. Like, I'm not going to lie, that is exhausting. I'm bloody good at it, but it's exhausting. I built the Raw Talent team. There was 37 of us at one point, loads of consultants, loads of recruiters, billing, what you said earlier, 180 and 180 or 360 degree. Like, we had some good times. But we wanted to move office from a little village where I live from a talent pool point of view, into Gerrards Cross. So we moved that. We lost a lot of people when we moved, but we utilized that as a leaning down of the business. Do you see what I mean? Rather than it being negative and people are not going to move with you because we were moving to a different location, we were like, okay, but let's use it as a bit of a cleanse. And we started a remote working scenario probably 2 years before COVID. And we never did that, but we started it, and it was a catalyst for starting. So when COVID hit, we were kind of like already kind of used to remote working, but there's no doubt about it that being locked down and not being able to do the whole people thing is actually, I think you're probably the first person that's ever asked me that question. And I've done a lot of stuff, but it was hard. I get my energy from other people. I need to be around other people. So sitting in my office, my home office, I've got an amazing setup, but sitting in here for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever, that was tough. And it was for a lot of people. I get that. One thing that's quite interesting to hear from a recruiter perspective is we were doing projects with people, organizations in the US, in Singapore, obviously all over the UK, and the remote piece was working. The platform was fantastic, starting to skyrocket. From a recruiter point of view, we're recruiting locked down, and they're on their laptops, as an example, on the edge of their bed in a shared house, and they're trying to work like that. It changed the way we started asking questions. It changed the way we started probing people, like, what's your setup like from working from home? Can you work remotely? How are you resetting your mental state? Because you have to go for walks, you have to get out there, do the fresh air, and we wasn't recruiting like that before. We wasn't asking them types of questions before. It's interesting, isn't it, how it had a profound effect on everybody, I think.
Definitely. And selling like remotely over Zoom, like different things about how you position yourself, where you look. Like they say, what is it? 95% of people just looking at themselves on the screen half the time. So building the connection with potential customers, it's also so huge. There's something I really want to ask you actually, because you've recruited a lot of salespeople, a lot of recruiters in your time. Who's the best recruiter that you've ever worked with or known?
What a question. Well, I've got a couple of very good ones now. I have to say that. If they're listening, they're going to be like, what? Yeah. Best recruiter. I think Dan Bruce. I think Dan Bruce was absolutely outstanding. I mean, I'm going way back. He used to work for me at Capita when I was at Capita. He was awesome. There is a lot. I mean, you look at that kind of transactional recruitment piece, that 360, high margin, low volume versus high volume, low margin. That's a very different skill set. It's a very different piece. But yeah, I'd probably, if I've got to choose one, you put me on the spot there, I'll probably go Dan Bruce. There's probably loads out there going, what are you talking about, Lee? What about
Why
me?
not me? They'll all be
Yeah,
saying, they'll
Dan
all say,
was
why
the
not me?
main.
And what made him great? Like, what can everyone do to be a bit more like Dan Bruce?
I think it's what we talked about when we talked about the Apprentice piece, that authenticity. He just knew how to have a conversation. He knew how to probe. There was no underlining factor with him. He wasn't thinking, I need a fee. This is probably the most important thing from a recruiter. He wasn't thinking, oh, if I speak to Suze, you might be worth 12 grand to me. He wasn't thinking that. What he was thinking was, have you got the right behaviors and competency for my client? Because I need to do the best for my client, but I also need to do the best for you. Is this the right fit? And he wasn't afraid of asking the difficult questions to the client. You've got to remember, recruiters that are listening, anyone, business owners, right? Difficult questions are hard to ask. That's why they're determined as difficult. But you have to ask them in order to get to the right aspect. Like most recruiters, or a lot of recruiters when they're first starting out, they get really excited when they've just got a new job on. Yeah, I got a job spec result. Okay, what now? You need to have the courage to and the conviction to ask the difficult questions to that client. When are you looking? How many other people are you looking at the moment? How many other agencies are you working with, as an example? Now, what's the timeline? What's your pain point? Really probing. Let's not go down that route now, but really probing to the client. Really, okay, you're looking for Suze on this type of salary, but if I found Lee on this type of salary, would that be of interest to you? No, it wouldn't. Right. So your bottom line is this. Really bottom up, really getting under the bonnet, as you like, of what the client's looking for. Because once you've got that, what you need to understand is that you get respect from the client. Most people don't do that. So people are looking for an edge. As a recruiter, you're looking for an edge. That's your edge. Your
and
edge
you
is
get
I'm the
respect
expert.
because you're helping them come up with the answers that they need to know as they put this job spec out. And sadly, a lot of people, and I always say to recruiters, like if someone says to you, oh, do you know what? I haven't really thought about it. Just send me a few people. Then they haven't thought about the job. That is not a job that you want to work on. So completely agree with that.
Exactly.
No, I love
exactly that. Position yourself as the expert because you are, because that's what they're paying for. That's what they're paying their 20% fee for, or 25% fee for. They're not paying or investing 20% of I don't know, say you're hiring 100 grand person, right? And you've agreed to 20%. That's a £20,000 investment from that organization to you. Now, if you flip it and I said to you, right, invest £20,000 into me, what do you expect? You expect more than a few CVs thrown over to you, wouldn't you? With a quick email going, oh, I've spoken to Lee and he looks good. You'd want a comprehensive data breakdown, when you have the behaviors, the competencies, what they do, how they do it, why they do it, what their social media. That's recruitment. And I think that's what you want in your craft. Like if you start thinking, Dan never thought about fee. Of course, fees will come if you're good at the first part. If you're really good at that, then the fees will come. And that's the mindset I think most recruiters, if not all, should be in.
Absolutely. And you can make a lot of money with it as well. I'm curious
100%.
to know, do you still speak to Mr. Sugar, Lord Sugar?
I've never had a relationship with him where I'd pick the phone up and go, you right, Shugs, how you getting on? Like, no, that's not the relationship. I know he's there if I need him as my mentor. I've asked him some key things about my businesses during the time. What was it in 16 years? Blimey, 16 years.
So,
I know he's there.
If we were picking up the phone to him now, right? We're not going to do that. But if we were, what would he say? Lee, I hope you're working on this. What's the main thing that you need to work on? Because there'll be a lot of people listening to this who think, well, Lee's great, but I'll never be a Lee. He's got his sort of secret magic that works for him. And he's made all this money. But actually, everyone's still learning and everyone's still working. So what do you think Lord Sugar would say you need to work at?
Lord Sugar will probably say to me, are you doing the simple things correctly? What I would say to them people listening in that scenario would be, have you got a plan to get to the next stage? Are you executing what you want? Are you taking action? Or are you the death scroller? Are you sitting at your desk at home, death scrolling? Scroll. Well, because we all do it. You're smiling. We all do it. I do it as well. Discipline, having that ability to know that actually that next call that you make, that next conversation you have, that next email that you might send could be the one that nets you a massive client. It could be like in my recruitment career, when I was working for somebody else, mainly Capita, most of the deals that I did were out of hours. Most of the deals that I done was because I was available at 9 o'clock at night. And I'm not saying that you have to be. I'm saying that, are you available? Are you doing everything in your power? Have you left? I love using sports analogies, Suze, because I'm a huge football fan. So have you left everything out on the pitch? Have you come up after that 90 minutes and gone, do you know what? I can't do any more. Because if you're that, you will start to be successful. It's not just about working hard. It's about taking action. It's about deciding. I'm going to decide that I'm going to do this. And then you be true to yourself and take action on it. And then the achievement will come. I solely believe that. So I really think that that's what people that are sitting there or listening saying, I won't be like Lee or whatever, you will, and you can, and you'll be better than me. Like you said earlier, you're a genius. You said you're not intelligent. You got into Cambridge. I sometimes thinking, what have I built these businesses? What am I doing? But it's my secret sauce or my magic wand is I make a decision and I take action. Most people don't do that. Most people don't. If you want to be in the top 1%, you need to take action. And some people say, yeah, but Lee, and this is the language bit. Yeah, but all the time. Yeah, but Lee. Yeah, but Lee. No, I was the guy in high-tech trainers. Yeah. I was the guy that grew up with rusty BMXs. Yeah. I was the guy that had a milkman as a father. We didn't have money. So don't come at me with, yeah, but Lee. This is a choosing to do what you want to do. And if you need help and guidance along the way, of course you will need. You need to be coachable. You need to get a coach. You need to be workable on that. But this is about you saying, do you know what? I can do this. I'm going to take action. And if you fail, guess what, team? Guess what? That's a good thing because you're going to learn from that and be better for the next time.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. And I almost don't want to say too much else because I think that's such a good way to end this episode. But I do have one question for you because somebody, and this is the last question, because someone asked me the other day and it really threw me. They said, you're on a path, but where's that path leading to? For me, it was a really difficult question. I want to ask you that question. Where's your path leading to? Where's Lee McQueen going? Where's the end goal?
It's weird. I mean, I don't think you realize how poignant that question is right now. I mean, I think if you'd have asked me that before COVID, it would have been a different pathway. I think if you'd have asked me that a year ago, I think it would have been a different pathway. But I think that what I've learned is that I'm at the stage of my career now where I'm really starting to change people's lives and see a trajectory of their business go from here to here is very, very rewarding. So the path that I'm on is that we want to sell Phoenix 51. We're going to be in the market for selling Phoenix 51 over the next 2.5 years. That was the original plan, and that still is the plan. But actually, to be able to affect people's businesses or people's lives by utilizing and getting the best possible people into their business is hugely rewarding. And also to see people's businesses changing as a result of either using Phoenix 51, the platform, using our coaching elements, using our recruitment service. Again, it's rewarding from a monetary perspective, but actually for me is I can look back and say, wow, that idea that I come up with about scrapping the CV really did work. I've been on my soapbox for 15 years, shouting about it, saying, why are you high on CVs? And actually, we're making some huge strides with massive organizations, Suze, that we work with, and go and check us out. But we work with massive organizations that you look back and you think, wow, we have started to change the game. It's a big oil tanker that started to move, but we've started to change the game. And I think that's what I want almost my legacy to look like as well in this industry is that, wow, he affected, not only did he do well, make money and all that sort of stuff in business, but he actually affected other people's businesses and ultimately other people's lives.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so poignant. And I know your age, no one else does because we hadn't pressed record. When will you retire? Will you retire ever? And he's not close to retiring for anyone listening, age-wise.
No, again, it depends, doesn't it? Age-wise, no, I'm not, definitely not. It depends how you look at it. I'm the other side of 40 now, so there's still some time. Like I say, I think that my perspective has changed. I want to help business owners, like genuinely want to help. I want to help business owners. And of course, you've got to earn a living on the way that goes. I've got unfinished business to do with Phoenix. Phoenix needs to get to a point where it's generating enough annual recurring revenue with its clients that we can get a really large valuation for it, which is something that I could never say about for talent, because as I said to you before, it was a perm business and every single month you start again, there was no value in that business other than what the service was. So we changed that and pivoted that into Phoenix. So I think the next 5 years are certainly going to be very, very interesting. Again, also around technology, because I can't go through this entire podcast and not mention AI. I can't go through this entire podcast and not mention Elon Musk and what they're doing and actually how that is going to shape the future. And I actually believe, Suze, it's only about 5 years. In the next 5 years, we're going to see a fundamental shift in driverless cars, in robots in the workplace, robots in the house place. And this is all driven, space, Mars, this is all driven by Elon. And again, without getting political, it looks like that Trump's getting in and Elon's his biggest backer. And I think that we're going to see a huge shift from the States and across the world within the next 5 years on technology. That's not just AI, that's fundamental technology. I think our world's about to change. So it's exciting. I love it. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts, like real good podcasts, and like you do as well. And there was a guy on that I listened to the other day, and he talked about if you can live, and this is quite profound, right? He said, if you're lucky enough to live the next 5 years, your probably life expectancy starts to hit 120 because of the level of technology coming out in healthcare. And I think people, I'm not quite sure how many people realize the level of technology that is about to change our entire world. So I'm excited by it, to be honest. I'm very excited by it. But I'm more of the same of, okay, brilliant. How can we embrace this?
Definitely. And I wish more people had that positive perspective, because I agree with you. I think it certainly helps me on a day-to-day basis. And I think if you've got that determination, that drive, and that raw talent, it will only accompany it. So I love that. Awesome. Well, so many people will be listening to this, maybe hopefully some business owners who will be interested in Phoenix 51 and will want to reach out to you. How can people follow you, contact you? How do you recommend people get in touch?
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, I'm all over socials. LinkedIn, probably from a business point of view, is my biggest key thing. I've been doing some really good stuff on that. Instagram, you can follow me on Instagram. Follow me on, well, you probably don't want to go on Twitter, actually, to be fair, because that's just full of football stuff. But yeah, you get in touch with me via the website. LinkedIn is always the best way. If you Google me, I'll come up. So yeah, it'd be great to talk to anyone. And just from an advice and guidance perspective, there'll be people out there that are building a business and building a recruitment company, or just a recruiter, or they're starting off, or they're looking for sales training, or whatever it might be. I'm always happy to help if I can. That's my mission on top of it. And of course, everything I do is powered by Phoenix 51. So it's an amazing tool. So why wouldn't we power all businesses by it?
Absolutely. And I doubt there are very many people out there who have cracked the recruiting side of what they do. So I'm a big advocate for that too. Thank you so much for coming on. I've had a great time having you on the show. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you soon at some event.
Good stuff. Cheers, Suze. Enjoy Dubai.
Thank you.